actually researching so to have porta potties and to have that business, you have to have a permit to do that.
Right.
And we're trying to figure out if New Mexico can actually transfer their permit, because it's really going to be that far away to try and find.
Yeah.
We are 2 years behind.
Yes.
People have been talking about this for 2 years. People have been planning for over 2 years. The first meeting that I went to with Hill Country Alliance almost 2 years ago, the first topic on the top of the agenda, porta potties.
Yes.
So they're gone.
It's a big.
We're not getting them. So yeah, it's going to be a struggle, but I'm fairly confident that we have the resources here at the fort to make this happen. So with everyone's input, I think we're going to have a fabulous event, and it'll be great for the overall membership and the longevity of the fort. So
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Natanya Watkinson. So on the Eclipse stuff, has there been anything to go out to membership to get a consensus of what the membership wants as far as having a big festival, opening up the grounds and all of that, and or will there be, or is this something that the board
Those are
decide?
the meetings that we're going to have. So hopefully that everyone can have enough time to state their opinion and give us their input as far as what they'd like. So that's why we've scheduled the town halls for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Now we'll get down to business. So the lease for the wastewater treatment plant. This has been an ongoing event. We're kind of in a stalemate at the moment with the utility, and I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain in more detail where we're at, because it's very important that as you show up here as the membership, remember you're also constituents of MUD, and so please show up at those meetings as well. Their meetings are on the third Wednesday, and they're held down at the utility by their office. There's a meeting room there. So currently, we have a wastewater facility plant on the fort. That was something that's always been here back to the 70s. In the 70s, it was actually where your recycle center is now. So that was a 3-acre plot that was used as the wastewater treatment facility. Fast forward to the early 90s. So 93, there was conversation around, all right, we need a bigger plant. So the fort gave 40 acres to the utility. They deeded 40 acres to the utility to build that wastewater treatment facility. There was a subsequent 2.916 acres given to the to MUD in order to put a buffer zone, which is required by TCEQ. So when you reach 75% capacity of a wastewater treatment plant, you have to start the planning for your next phase, or to enlarge that plant in order to service your constituents. We not only take the sewage from all the houses on the fort, but the sewage from Bracketville is pumped in order to treat it there as well. So that's how that facility works. In 2019, that's when we reached the capacity in 17 or 18, the 75% capacity. So they had to start planning, MUD had to start planning to build a facility that would be larger in order to handle all of that sewage. So we all started doing research, and everyone here on the board has been involved in going through boxes, finding documents, and we've actually built a binder from 1994 until now that has all of the documents in place pertaining to the wastewater treatment facility. So in 2019, under Board Resolution 2019-7, the board committed to leasing an additional 40 acres to the utility in order to build the facility with bond dollars. So they spent approximately $3.2 million to build that. In Texas, conveyance of land is very, very difficult and precise. The document in which MUD has at the moment does not properly convey that property to them, which is an issue from the standpoint of being a member here, because we all now own property that a wastewater facility plant sits on. Yet we have no recourse because we don't have the expertise to manage that or to mitigate any issues involved with that. So we really need to work towards a solution where we transfer ownership of that property to the utility. Well, our governing documents have stipulations as to how, as a membership, the board cannot turn over your property. The only thing that the board can do is grant easements and right-of-ways, and that's even a very touchy subject in order to do that. So there will be a time where we have to come to you and talk about these 40 acres that have already been built on. At the current moment, there is a lease that has been circulated to the city of Brackenville because they are tenants as well. The fort received these documents in March of 2021, and we've contested these documents from day one as far as trying to get them in the proper order. We have done a lot of work to provide the proper documentation, done a lot of research in order to put these documents in front of the utility so that they will understand what it is that we're trying to achieve here. Currently, there is a lease which is for 82.916 acres, which is curious to me why you would be leasing property from the fort when you already own 43 of those acres. So the document in and of itself that they have presented isn't relevant to what we're trying to do. And we, as a board, have asked and tried to explain that to their attorney, to their board, to the city, and we're not getting anywhere. So please, as members and constituents of MUD, please ask them to look at this document, because currently we all sit with liability of a wastewater treatment plant on our property. We do not have the protections of a utility. We do not have the protections of a government entity. It's on our property. We have to fix this, and they're not listening to us. So, yes, ma'am.
Phoebe Borland. Why can't it be like a perpetual easement or some long easement, and then all of the responsibilities and liability or outlining who's liable or whatever be in an easement?
So it's the recommendation of the attorney, as it was in 1994 NTCEQ, that the property be deeded. The only way to fully escape the liability is to deed the property. And yes, you could do it in such as an easement or a lease, but that's not the recommended course by our council.
Because, I do easements for the government, and it's an easement deed. It is a deed, it just doesn't convey the full ownership. So we would still maintain, but they would have all the responsibility, all the liability, and all of the, I'm just curious.
No, that's a path, but I can't even get them to the table to talk to us about that path. So okay. Whatever the path is, like right now, we're not worried about how we do it, how we convey it, because all these options are on the table. At this point, we just need them to come to the table and talk to us. And so, yes, all of those options are on the table once we even get to that conversation. Yes. So, any other questions, comments from the board? No? Okay. Parking fees for Unit 1, I think that's something that's really on the back burner. This is regarding adding more parking for Unit 1, which was a request that was made by that unit. So, approval for golf tournament fees. I don't think we have anything at this point. That's not till January. So, okay, emergency panic buttons. No more information. GM approval limits. We have several things, as you've heard today, with contracts and the lease that are in front of any resolutions from the board. So, nothing on item 5 either. Discussion item 1, sale and marketing of Fort Inn lots.
That would be me. I don't have the background on when we stopped. I don't have the background of when we stopped selling.
You're not on.
Try it again.
Yeah.
You're good. You're on.
Am I on? Can you hear me now?
No.
No.
Unplug it and plug it back in.
Here?
Yeah. Pull it, yeah, take the whole thing out.
It's obviously beyond me.
I'm just acting.
Maybe it's the stand, right? Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't have the information on when we had taken them off. I just wanted to have the discussion about putting them back up for sale. I know there's been talk of raising the limit of the lots that the fort owns from the 3,500. So I just want to have the conversation because, we're talking about revenue, we're talking about memberships and them falling off, and we're sitting on approximately 78 units. And not all of them are available at this point because some of them need to be cleared from trailers, but there are a lot of just empty lots that have never been sold by the fort, and some that have come back as part of foreclosure or give back. So in our documents, it states that in our declaration in governance that in addition to the powers of the board herein, elsewhere expressed or implied, the board shall have the following power and duties: to sell and market individual lots or parcels owned by the association, which are adequate building sites, and to that end, engage such marketing agency as the law may permit to render such service. Sale of common property shall be approved by the affirmative vote of a majority of the votes cast by the lot owners. We're not discussing the common property. But to me, this reads, that's our responsibility, and I think that we need to get them back up for sale. At least the ones that are ready at this point. And if we want the price to go up on them from the 3,500 that they're all set at, then we should have that discussion and move forward on it.
Yeah, I think that that's a great plan in order to bring revenue to the fort. The first thing that I think that we need to look at is at some point, and maybe someone from the membership can remember when this was done, but there is a policy resolution that gives 10% of any sales to the real estate agent who sells that property. So until 10%. So until we remove that resolution, I don't think we need to be selling any lots. I'm all for compensating people properly for the job that they do, but there is currently a resolution on the books that provides for a 10% incentive for any real estate agent that sells a fort lot. So I really think that we need to find that documentation and bring that before the membership before we start selling lots, because why are we giving away 10% to sell a lot that we can market on our own?
Well, if it's a policy resolution, I mean, if I'm wrong, let me know, but we can rescind a
That's what I'm
policy.
saying.
We can take a vote right now and rescind that.
Well, we have to have the policy resolution in front of us. We have to bring it before the membership, and then we can rescind it. Yes, you are correct. We can rescind the resolution, but that's what I'm saying. Prior to putting these lots on the market, we need to first get the house in order of removing this policy resolution, which someone's going to have to do the research of pulling that document, bringing it before the membership, publicly noticing them that, hey, this is what we're going to do, and then removing that document from our policy resolution.
Do we have, Chris is,
I have not found that policy resolution yet, but when I get back, I'll be going through more of them. They're nebulous, I forget after what year. I think they go through 1984 to 2002, it's pretty clear. And then after that, they're nebulous.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place.
so how do we know we have this resolution?
Because
If we can't find it.
at some point, going through boxes in the wee hours of the morning, I know I've seen the resolution. It's been brought up to me by a realtor as well that this this resolution exists. I just can't put my hands on it. So I know it's out there. I can't put my hands on it today. But there are real estate agents that know about this because they brought it up to me. And the moment we put these on the market, they're going to get sold, and we're going to owe them 10%. And they're going to sit there with a legal document that says, "Where's my 10%?" So, sure.
One of the reasons we took them off the market is, first off, we do have lot up possibilities with people that own other lots. But the other thing is, what we were selling these for was the county assessed value. Now, I don't know if anybody here wants to sell their house for the county assessed value, but I don't think the fort should be selling their lots for the county assessed value. So the board has to set rates for all the fort-owned lots and what we're gonna sell them for. And that's just, that before we do that, before we sell them, we need to set the rates.
So the approximate value from the county appraisal district for the lots that are still retained, the 78 lots that Lisa mentioned that are retained by the fort, is somewhere just north of $200,000. So that's the appraised value. So the market value should be much higher than that. And that's something, so we have a few steps to take in order, and I totally agree, it is our responsibility to facilitate revenue. It's our responsibility to market and sell these lots as necessary, but there are a few steps between here and getting that done. So one would be an appraisal of the lot values. The first would be finding that policy resolution. The second would be appraising these at an appropriate rate to sell to the public. So,
if we're gonna pass some resolutions later on, they have to be filed with the district clerk, correct? So they should be just going to the district clerk and getting a copy.
well, yes, the proper procedure is to file all policy resolutions with the county. As we all know, the following of the guidelines and the statutes in the state of Texas by Fort Clark has been less than accurate over the years.
So we can't locate one there, technically, the policy resolution doesn't exist.
Well, there are
It's
minutes
not-
somewhere, there will be minutes somewhere that reflect that this was passed by the board, and so if we want to get into a legal battle, then yeah, we could do that. I mean, the easiest thing is for us to go back, find the policy resolution, and take the proper steps, and not move out of desperation, but do the appropriate steps that will bring the most value to the membership, which would be rescind the policy resolution, appropriately market these lots at the value that they should actually be sold for. Yes, sir.
Well, the establishment of the value, that seems to be a reasonable thing to do. I bought my lot in 2004, and the realtor did not get 10%. And if this was in effect, they didn't get the 10%, number one. When I was working here, we sold lots. They would come in, we would do the paperwork necessary, they go to the title company through the fort, not through a realtor, and we sold lots. So there is a way we can do it without having, unless a realtor brings someone and says they want to bring it, they're speaking on behalf of their client. But the fort can sell lots under the current situation. And this is a gold mine of money. I'm not sure why we're sitting on it, and I have no recollection recently or last year ever expressing to Mr. Peterson not to sell the lots. It might have happened, I have no recollection of it. All of a sudden I get calls saying, why aren't we selling lots? So,
Well, if I'm a
Just tell me.
realtor, if we go out right now and we say we're gonna sell these lots, I can tell you on Monday morning, I'm gonna be at First State Bank. I'm going to get a loan as a realtor. I'm gonna buy $200,000 worth of lots, and then I'm gonna ask for my check for $20,000.
That's an assumption.
correct.
That's an assumption. That's just business 101. Someone's gonna do it. Someone's going to do it. Yeah.
It sounds like the realtors have the proposal. We can't get it from one of them.
I don't think that, we could ask them when they passed it.
We have one
Yeah.
here, and she's saying, no, she doesn't know anything about it.
Who's saying that they don't know anything about it?
D.
Are you aware of that, Ms. Didi?
No, I never had that experience, or I never,
No, Rihanna did. Was.
So, yes, sir.
Don't you have to sign a contract with a realtor before? In other words, you're hiring a realtor to move the property for you. A realtor can't simply just come in and say, I'm gonna sell this lot for you, whether you like it or not.
Well, that is the mentality of the people that have come to us in the past, is like, I just sold this lot for you. I have this list. I just sold this lot for you. Where's that? And I agree that won't stand up, but we're going to get in a legal battle over it, and then we're just gonna be sitting here spinning our wheels, spending dollars on fighting a policy resolution that if we just took 30 minutes to go find, we could nip this before it even becomes an issue.
Curtis Benham. So have we checked with the district clerk on the off chance that this was one policy resolution that might have been filed with them? Just to see.
We have not. I mean, as you've heard me state, there's a lot of other things that I've been on top of. I have personally not had the time to go do that.
I
No.
will go Tuesday and look for it.
I just was curious. I mean, and if we have to find it, we have to find it. But we're making an awful lot of assumptions here that somebody's gonna come in and take all these lots and that it does exist, it doesn't exist. So I think step one is, let's see if it was filed with the district. Thank you, Memo, for taking that on, Director Guzman. And then if we have to look through other stuff, as Chris had said, great, we can find it. But until then, all we're doing is spinning our wheels and speculating. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just, as a final for me, is there someone else?
Same.
Sandy Hagan, Unit 27. First of all, I have, during my time on the board, had to go over to the clerk's office. They want a time frame in which to look for any particular filings. Secondly, we were told by our attorney and by the state of Texas that if a document is not actually filed with the King County Courthouse, it does not exist and is not enforceable.
Yep.
You were correct with that. This is research. Thirdly, whatever, I would suggest that you look in the years 2018, 2019,
17.
because that is the first time that I have heard of that type of document coming up. And it might have been a gentleman's agreement with the board at that time, or certain members of the board at that time, to do this, so that the fort didn't have to go through the process of actually selling the property themselves, since we're not real estate agents, and then letting the realtors, because the other part of that, I believe, if my memory is correct, and it may not be, they were on a rotational basis. Rihanna Hay and Debbie Isaacs might be able to provide you with some information on this. Debbie was on the board at that time. Okay. But I know it's not something we did in, from the point of the rescue board from 2020, okay?
You're correct at the time frame.
Yeah, and I think that's when it is, and that's when you should probably look, because we need to get those properties back on. My neighbor right behind me wants to buy 2 right now, okay? So, we're losing money by not putting those back in the market, but we need to be realistic in pricing them. When I moved here 12 years ago, the lot next to me, which is long and narrow, one lot, was selling for $9,000, and this was the amount originally set up by Mendelson and that group. And then at that particular time, the board decided they'd lower them at $3,500 to try and sell the lots. Okay, so we bought one when they did that, and we bought it directly from the fort. They did all the paperwork. All the money went back to the fort lot. So I just thought I'd fill in a little history that
Thank
at
you.
least I was part of.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, good morning. First of all, I am known, I'm gonna get there. First of all, I'm known on the board as Phoebe's husband, just so y'all know. But my name's Jamie Bordelon. This is the first meeting I've come to, and I will say that this is very eye-opening, a lot of information that you don't get. You read social media, you get mad, you get pissed off, and you don't only get half the story, okay? So the first thing I want to address is the lots, all right? The people that own lots, own property now, are we gonna get first right of refusal for those lots that adjoin our property? Or are they gonna be sold to just anyone? And I say that because I bought a property here in 2015. Both properties on each side of me were open. Then I bought 1115 Fairway Circle, the lot beside me, and we've dealt with Miss Julie and Mr. Peterson on this as well. They haven't paid assessments, taxes to the county or nothing since they bought the place. I have mowed it, I have taken care of it, I have done everything. So my question is, would we have first right at that property, or could it be just sold to any Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes in with the money?
Well,
I'm ready to buy the property today.
So I don't think any individual board member can answer that question, but I know they can't answer it. It'd have to be a board decision to do that. And I think that the point that you bring up has been brought up by many members. And so when we get through this process and we have a town hall, I would encourage you and there will be others that will do it as well. But I think that that's something that we should consider. How do we do that? What's the process for it? I'm not certain at this point, but it's definitely something that we're going to consider. I mean, that's just, there's a lot of people in your situation.
Okay.
There's a lot of people in your situation.
And while I'm up here, because I don't want to walk my fat butt back up here, I'm going to buy 2 trees. Put me down for 2 trees.
2 trees, going once.
I also work for a company, Primora Services Corporation. I'm a general superintendent out there, and we bill Austin Energy between 1.3 million and 1.9 million every month. And the first thing I know is I cannot have my cost exceed my revenue. That is just bad businesses. That's bad decisions. Anytime your cost exceeds your revenue, you're going in the hole. I heard the report earlier that we were $6,000 in the red for September, correct?
That's with a non-cash item, but yes.
Okay, but we're in the negative $6,000.
No, with a non-cash item. So with depreciation.
Okay. My point is, we're sitting on these lots that could be making us money. How many lots do we have? And it can't be answered today, I get it.
78.
How many lots do we have where people are not paying their assessments on?
So we have currently, not paying their assessments on. So currently, and I'm glad you brought that up. So we have a process that was put in by the board probably about 1.5 years ago. And it's a very strict process that was reviewed by our attorney. And we currently have 28 properties that we are in what's called the 209 status. So 209 is the property code that governs our organization, one of the property codes that governs our organization. And so in that process, we start out with we don't have to do anything until 90 days as an association. But at 30 days, we send a letter saying you haven't paid. At 60 days, we send another letter. We have a payment program that we run through the 4th, which we don't have to do. And then at 90 days, we enter into a process called 209. And Mr. Guzman, back up here. You used to do this job for the board. So if I stray from the process, please back me down. So at the 209 letter, we start there. Currently, we have $189,000 at the attorney in collection based on the 209 letter. So that means that they're beyond 90 days. They have real property, and I think the assessed value of that property is somewhere north of $300,000. So we have an active process, and if you look at the P&L that's presented each month, one of the interesting line items is actually a revenue item that's going down. And you're thinking, well, Travis, why are you highlighting a revenue item that's going down? Well, it's actually the late fees. The late fees are going down because our process is much better in collecting on time versus having to then assess a late fee. So you're right on track with what you're saying. So there's a lot of properties out there, and there's a long process in order to bring that to a remedy. So the first thing is, please just pay your assessments. Other than that, I mean, there is a long process to go through to collect that. And that's frankly one of the reasons that we find ourselves in the situation that we're in. Because for so many years, we didn't collect the money we should have been collecting. So every month, we're operating with less money than we should. And that's been a large issue over time. And I think we're better at it. I think we're between 3 and 6% as far as collections. 2 years ago, you're probably between 10 and 12% as far as delinquency.
So at that point, what you're saying, we're getting back in a balance.
Yes.
I think it's most important for this board and this membership and everybody to know, we have got to do one of two things. We either have to cut costs or we have to raise revenue. And until we do that, we're never gonna get back on the black side of these books. It's just not gonna happen. So I have 3 questions for you. How big do your holes need to be for trees?
We need 12-inch holes,
12-inch holes, how deep?
3 feet,
What's the digging on the fort like? Is it rock, is it dirt, is it mostly dirt?
everywhere we go. It's gonna be mixed.
Get with me, I can provide a pressure digger and we can dig those holes in 1 weekend.
All right, there we go. Thank you.
I would just like to end with, of the lots that he was discussing, they're not part of this 78. The 78 we already own.
Right.
It's 79. And there may be a few that we have, a handful that there may be title issues with. Is that
None
correct?
of those.
None of those? They're all clear?
Those are 79 that we actually
Okay.
have paperwork on.
Okay, I had previous notes from a different list, so.
No, there are about 20 more that we have in the foreclosure. That we have, that are in
Okay.
the final stages of foreclosure.
Okay, so of the ones that we have here on this list, it's actually $300,000 worth just at the 3,500, the 2,000, just at the assessed value. It is 300,000. And just to give you an idea, if we sold every single one of them, and just as a lot and not as a residential, that's 48,000 a year, almost 49,000 in increased revenue. And I know that, we have these things that we need to clean up, but I think that there shouldn't be any problem to do it within 30 days. Find the resolution, get with the realtor to appraise. If I'm wrong, please say.
We can set the price.
You have to set the price, and you also have to hold something back for lot-ups.
Well, I think we have documentation for lot-ups that says that we don't guarantee them.
Right, but still.
So when you talk about lot ups and let's just say, so we got to talk balance here. That was one of the conversations that was just brought up. So your lot ups, if you were to take those, and I don't know the figures off the top of my head, I'm gonna just kind of wing it here. But yes ma'am.
What's a lot of?
So a lot up is when I earlier this year presented a document, a set of documents that went through the different types of memberships. And over time, from 2010 through 2016, we lost 800 memberships. And so how did that happen? Those are people that had postage stamp lots, so behind Unit 2 or out behind the airport, they all have the opportunity to lot up into a developed lot. So the risk that you run by not having these lots on the books and the availability to lot up is all of those members could say, I'm done, I'm out, it's over. And that's somewhere in the 200 member range. So you may gain these lots, but you also have 200 members that are members currently that may say, well, now I have no opportunity. And so you may just be trading, and it may be better, right? Because I agree with you that now you have a potential volunteer, you have a potential person who is going to be here maintaining the property so that their neighbor doesn't have to do it. So there are advantages and disadvantages, but it's not it is a zero-sum game, but at the end of it, you can't just say, oh, we're gonna raise this and we're not gonna see a depletion elsewhere, because you will see a depletion. And I think we receive currently 5 to 6 turnbacks a month on those lots. So
Probably over 20 a year.
Yeah.
30 a year.
Yeah, so
Now, we need to contact these people and really force the issue of trying to get them.
you're right. I mean, to me, when I look at this from a financial standpoint, and I look at our P&L, and I look at the budget, the major liability that isn't on the expense side is the actual revenue that is associated with lot ups or people who have postage stamp lots and just memberships. Because potentially they could all come in, and again, we're speaking in terms that most likely will not happen, but lightning does strike, that they could all turn them in at one point. And so that would be a huge revenue hit to the association if we did that. So there's a balance.
There is, and we just need to take a risk assessment. You know, will 200 people all at once turn them in, or, you know, will we end up selling lots and not only having a membership, but they'll build and have a residential, which is, you know, doubling what we would get and what I put on here. So, I mean, obviously my opinion is clear, and I think we need to move forward and not drag our feet on it.
I've been on the board for a year and a half. I am only aware of one lot up. Has there been any other lot ups in your tenure, Mr. Peterson?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so in the last 24 months, it's been one lot up.
That lot up was over a year that spanned back to the board prior to when I came on the board and was in litigation for over 18 months. So it is a process that's contentious. So, yeah.
Just a refresher, for clarity, really, Mr. Peterson, if someone came in and we have a lot owned by the port, can we sell it?
We can sell it.
And that person goes and does a survey and goes to the title company, does the proper paperwork and pays us, we can sell it.
Sure.
No realtor involved, no 10% loss.
Nope.
So
At what price?
At the price that we can establish.
We have to establish the price.
Which will have to be done in public and at a meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, but, okay. So let's do it. So we can sell the lots that are ready to go.
Yeah.
It's if someone comes in and just wants it.
But the price is the key.
We don't have a
Right,
price,
right.
yes.
Okay.
See, and I'm of the belief, let's say the Bordelons wanted to buy their lot next door to their house, and they offer Mr. Peterson $6,000 on Monday.
I can't take it.
It's not enough.
Well, I think we ought to consider it at that moment, because that's $6,000 that they may pay us and take over the membership. Yes, sir. That's just an example.
Did he just say he would take it?
No. No, he said he can't take it, because we haven't put that forward as to what the price would be.
I
But
can make that happen.
yeah.
I'm with Ms. Vale. We need to do it ASAP. There's times we do a lot of urgent votes. There's a lot of time that we're pressed for time for things. We have to decide on the trees today, which we just found out today about it, so we can make this happen quickly. Thank you.
Okay, so the sale and marketing of family recreational membership, strategy for marketing FRMs, amenities, value of FRM, and increased sport revenue.
Did it say strategy?
Maybe I added that. It does say strategy.
Does it?
I know, that's just in my normal lingo.
I don't have a strategy. But that goes along with, you know, we're at like 120
50,
something?
yeah, 120, somewhere in that. Yeah.
120 FRMs, and we can sell up to 2,000. And I think that goes with the whole beautification of the fort, and, you know, but the other question is, what do you get for the FRM? We need to really be looking at and targeting how we're going to sell an FRM, because there needs to be a perk for it, discounts for hunting, you know, discount, you know, whatever it is. We need to make the public price expensive enough that if we get it, that's awesome. But if not, it's cheaper for them to buy an FRM, because that is revenue that doesn't have trash, doesn't have a water tap, doesn't, you know, there's a lot of things that we don't have to pay for. It's just a family recreational membership to use the pool, that type of thing. But as it stands right now, I feel like we don't have enough to say, you know, we already have members going, where's my amenities? And I just want to have the discussion on how maybe we can move forward. It doesn't have to be a long one. I just want it out there and on the radar that we need to have a plan and market these FRMs.
I'm glad you mentioned radar, because I think that the first place that we can look is at the military base in Laughlin. So I recently joined the chamber, and I think that the Fort has done the paperwork to join the chamber in Del Rio as well. They have a really unique opportunity that I think we haven't been capturing over the last few years, which is every class that comes in, local businesses through the chamber sponsor an event for that class to do. Well, we're sitting on prime time. All right, let's get these guys out here. They provide, the base provides transportation. They'll bring them over. We pull an axis off of what we already need to be pulling axis out of our herd. We use our facilities. We bring them down to the pool. We set up some golf cart tours, show them around the fort. And that can be something that, and actually I think a class comes in every 2 weeks. So this opportunity is there consistently. I think that marketing to the military base, looking at our first responders, you know, unfortunately, and we've all had this conversation, I think we really missed out over the last year having all these DPS here and not saying, hey, here's a way that you can join. Because a lot of them, I mean, I actually heard some of the guys saying, don't tell the other people that you could get stationed at Fort Clark, because they wanted to get back on the rotation for here because it's so enjoyable to be here when their time is off. So I think if we first, as a first step, focused on Laughlin and our first responders, I think that would be a great step forward. And later in our discussions, item 7, we have marketing proposals, and I think we task whatever entity we choose for marketing to that be one of the goals, is to market memberships. And I think that we could set that KPI in order to do that. So. Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe I'll wear out my welcome here, and the board will probably hate me after I make this statement. I'll exit through the back door, just so you know.
We've got two.
That'll work. I'll run to either one. Don't chase me. So in my line of business, we have goals to reach, right? If I start in January 1st and I say I don't want to cause an outage this whole year, and I go 11 months and 28 days, and then I cause an outage, do I look at that year as a failure? Did I not reach my goal?
No, you didn't.
I didn't reach my goal, right?
Correct.
That's not correct, Mr. Huey, and I hate to say that, but I had 11 months and 28 days of success. That one date did not kill me for that year, right? And my point in saying that is accountability. I have to hold my foreman accountable. I have to hold my lineman accountable. I have to hold my general foreman accountable for me to reach those goals. This is my first meeting again, and I apologize to anybody sitting here. But I'm sitting here hearing, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. You've got to set some goals. You've got to set some dates of, I'm going to have these lots rates figured out by January 1. Because if we don't set them goals, we're going to be sitting here the same time next year, and we're going to be saying, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, and nothing's going to get done. You guys are voted on, you're a board member, and I don't care if it takes 40 hours a week. That's what you signed up for, period.
I agree.
And this membership, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because this is for y'all. Y'all need to hold them accountable. We need to hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
And Miss Linda Bryan, you've already done this. If that board wasn't doing what they need to do, we need to have a vote and remove some members. And
Members of the board.
I mean, I'll leave, but I'm just saying, the board members. The board members.
You are exactly right.
Because we went through a stage where I don't have social media, I don't have phones, I don't have emails, I don't do this, I don't do that. In my opinion, which means Jack.
Thank you for stopping.
With that being said, this is not a time and age for you not to have a phone, for you not to have email, for you not to have this, that, and the other. We as a membership have to hold you accountable and say, we want some dates on this. I'm tired of sitting and reading social media. He'll tell you I'm the devil on social media. All right? But I'll sit and talk to anyone about these kind of things because I've been in business management for 15 years. And with that being said, until we set goals, reachable goals. My goal today is to make it to lunch and not get hurt, right? But honestly, if I make it to lunch and I don't get hurt, I was successful. And then I said, I want to make it home at 5 o'clock. I was successful. We all like pats on the back. Hey, great job. We like that, right? If we set our goals too far out, we're never going to reach those goals. Let's be honest. Let's set immediate goals so we can make those happen, and then moving forward, it'll be a success.
I
Quit
totally
putting
agree.
it off. Quit putting it off.
And just in that same vein of thinking, remember that our 11 months and 28 days happens every month as well. And so there are a lot of successes that we've done, we've had, and we may have fallen down at some point and maybe not done what you have liked, but don't chop our heads off just
Advertise
pure
those
fun.
successes too. I mean, I think you'd be better about advertising what you have accomplished and what's been completed.
Yes, the
Sure.
membership don't hear the good, and I think that's very important as well. You get patronized for the things that you quote unquote don't get done because nobody's putting your successes out there. And that's where social media comes in. Put something out there that says, hey, we got this accomplished today, this is where we're at. All the membership wants is information. And for the longest, since I've been here since 15, we don't get that information.
Understood and well noted. Thank you. Anything else on lots or FRMs?
No, that's it.
Okay. So Dickman Hall, heating unit replacement, fireplace inspection, cleaning, pros and cons to fix above or spend the money to move it. I'm assuming spend the money to move it means move to Creekside. Okay.
So for the length of this meeting, these are all my items, I apologize. And that's another, I know that Mr. Peterson has said that we need a new heater or a new unit. 2 over there at Dickman Hall, and at the cost of,
We would survive with one, but you
need 2. And that's like
need 12,500 each.
each, so 25,000 plus, it would be great if the fireplace works,
That would
because
allow
it's
you
awesome.
to expand into the main area.
Right, which kind of needs to happen because it's too small in the bar area, and then the middle area is either too hot in the summer or too cold in the winter.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a minimum of $25,000 plus if we want a fireplace.
Have we done the air conditioners already?
No.
We have one unit that works 45% of the time.
In the bar?
Yeah,
It works with air conditioning. It
Sort
probably
of.
will not make it through the winter with heat.
Yeah.
And that's
Bring your
because-
jackets
and
or
that's-
drink more.
That is because it was wired incorrectly and it did too much damage to it. The bar itself has 2 units. One will keep the bar open and going, and that's the one that's working partially.
We're talking heat or air conditioning?
Both.
Okay.
The one in the back also handles the area in the restaurant. So if we want to expand that one has to be fixed. So to get everything in and for the first part of the restaurant or half of that restaurant, you're looking at 2 units that have to be working. One will not make it through this next winter. I can almost guarantee you that.
How many tons are they each?
5 ton.
so that's why I put the question of, and I love Dickman, it's historic and everything else, but we have to also be reasonable and look at overhead. I mean, someday we'd all love to have a restaurant and everything else there, but to spend for all the electricity, I know that there's, cost just because it's a giant building and the repairs that we have to do to limp along, or do we move it?
Dickman Hall right now is profiting about $10,000 a year. That's the profit. Now, the question is, what can it do if we expand the operation, add a little minimum food? That's a possibility.
At least in the bottom part.
But the minimum food
You
still,
can't lease anything without an air conditioner, HVAC. I mean,
If the air conditioned heaters were there, could we rent them out, like we do at the NCO?
we don't,
Rent it out for like
What?
events? Oh, okay.
well, yeah, you could actually turn the bar and the front area into wedding reception, just like, they could pay extra to have an open, to have a bar.
you're not going to cover your costs.
So there's the question, do we continue with Dickman at 10,000 a year and just,
And your payback's about 1.5 years. So I would say yes.
Yeah.
on one unit?
On a unit that will last you 20 years, or 15 years minimum probably. These are all over 20 years old. So for
So
an
just in the bar.
investment in 2 units will pay off in 5 years.
Okay, then that's just the questions I'm trying to ask.
What do you envision for that building?
Me?
No,
Oh.
Mr. Peterson. I mean, I know you've been flipping back and forth over time.
I don't agree with putting a restaurant in for the general population from offside the fort and Creekside, because that's too many people coming into the fort that are not members. So if you want to have outside business come in, which is key for the fort, you have to do it at Dickman Hall. The restaurant, yeah, it's going to be a major expense. Can it be done incrementally and by cleaning up what's there and trying to set up a restaurant on a minimum scale? Yes. It may be we can do it in incremental facts over 3 years, or somewhere along the line put $200,000 in making a restaurant and opening up for real. That's the choice. I don't agree with putting a bar all the way down Fort Clark Road. I mean, our people can't even make it out of the parking lot without hitting the corner. I don't want them driving over the little bridge. So, but then they're also having to come back and forth through all the deer, through all the people. I don't think that's a good idea.
So can we make a decision on this?
Well, there's no,
I'm
it's just a discussion.
Just trying to open the discussion.
Yeah, it's just a discussion. So, any other comments on that, Mr. Mayor? I think
Sell
that,
some lots. Sell some lots. Buy the air conditioning. Sell some lots.
The golf course already has people that come to it that are not members.
Yeah.
There is alcohol that's sold out there. It's not liquor, but it's still alcohol.
But it
So-
closes early.
I mean, I know, but, you know, we
I
already
agree.
have members coming onto the golf course to that area. I mean, onto the fort to that area where there is existing alcohol. So just a thought.
And we've had a restaurant there
you're right.
also, so
Okay.
that's, all I can do is put it out there.
Sure. Okay, so tree planting, we're gonna start moving fast now. Tree planting, we've already talked about that. Is there any further discussion that we needed? You covered that in your management report. So any questions about that? I think we've already had some great progress on that. Yes, ma'am.
So for doing our donation for a tree, what is that, is that process been published yet?
It will go out Monday after
Okay.
yeah. So we wanted to publicize it here first and then we'll send it out Monday so we can get that done. So that will go out then. Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting a lot of background talk behind me, so I can't hear it all very good. This is just the discussion. I'm Pat Stevenson, and I'm gonna go back to Dickman Hall a little bit. I'm concerned because it is historical building, the Officers Club, which gets no respect, which really chaps my hide. My husband and I have donated, I don't know how many dollars, and I'd like to see it stay open with a minimum. We can't even get a cracker out there. Everybody in the motel would like something. Yes, it needs some work, but I have a question. Does maintenance clean it?
No, housekeeping does.
Housekeeping does not clean it because the filters, air filters, it's filthy. A lot of us volunteers or members will go over there and we can't even stand it. It's filthy. You can't get air to move when everything's plugged. So we've got to take care of what we've got or it's going to fall down. And then what it's going to do to plant all these trees to see all the trash, like the building over there that's burned. Why don't we keep the history on the fort, which is why everybody came here. That's why I came here. But let's fix it and start showing respect for everybody and the Officers Club.
Thank you.
And clean it. God, clean it.
So proxy votes is the next item of discussion, and so this was a item that was brought up at the last board meeting, and we had a member who sent in a note asking about if their renter could attend meetings and participate in the local activities. And the only thing that I've found in our documents, and anyone else who has a different reading, please speak up. But the only thing I found in our documents is that we don't allow for proxy votes. But other than that, attending meetings, there are certain committees that, you know, are required to be a lot owner. But other committees, I mean, they're all set by the board, so it's going to be kind of on a as necessary basis, you know, or as needed and reviewed basis. So again, we're looking for all the participation we can get, and I don't think we have any intention of excluding someone based on them being a renter or not. Yes, sir.
Suzanne Main, I apologize for not identifying myself earlier when I spoke from the audience, but I can go on a bit of a soapbox about our renters and our tenants. I think that we're unfriendly to them, and I think that the original intention of this community was not to have, I mean, I think it's clear, it was not to have renters, not to have tenants. It was to be an owners-only facility. But there's many things about the original intention for this community that have changed over the years and that they're not valid anymore, or perhaps we as owners and tenants don't subscribe to anymore. And you know, I think it's a shame that we have tenants who've been here for years who you know, and I've had tenants here until this year, and you know, I'm always have to sign up that I'm responsible for my tenants and their behavior and their, you know, their behavior on the fort. And I do that, but you know, we've got a lot of responsible people that are tenants. And we have, you know, we have irresponsible people who are owners and irresponsible people who are tenants. But I just think we're unfriendly to tenants and renters. And I think that we have a fair number of volunteers, certainly, who come, you know, the Winter Texans who come and they volunteer and they go back, and they're, you know, they're not permanent kinds of folks. We have a lot of people who move through this area because we do have a border patrol, we have a, you know, customs presence, we have a military presence, and so there is a certain population group that is always going to be transient here, and they're not necessarily going to be, they're good people, but they're not necessarily going to be the kind of people that can purchase here or that are willing to purchase here. And I think we miss out because, you know, they can't get the dispatch notices. You know, I always made sure that my tenants knew what was going on and I would pass them on. But, you know, we have a lot of owners who they don't necessarily think about that. But I just think we're unfriendly to our tenants, and I wish that we could come up with a way to be more friendly and to recognize them as an important part of our community.
I think you're exactly right. I think we can do a lot better, and I'm hoping that, and thank you for actually registering your tenants, because that's something that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, people don't do that.
People don't do that, which then makes it difficult for them to be able to participate in anything because no one knows that they're tenants, right? Because they haven't been registered. So I think that that's something that we can take on as a board, is to work with some of the committees that are working in the community to make this more inviting and a more favorable experience for everyone who has something to offer, which is everyone who is here on the fort. So
I'd like to say that we have people here who are renters who are volunteers. They get out there and work with the rest of us, right in the trenches. So, thank you.
So, like I said, you're welcome. The only thing that our documents don't allow is for proxy votes. So everything else besides, there's certain committees, like I believe Architectural Committee is precluded to just lot owners, but other than that, I'm not certain of committees that have any other, and that's at a state level. That's not a fort thing. That's a state piece of the property code.
Just for clarity purposes, renters, they're allowed to participate in committees and volunteer, but they still don't have the same opportunity to go to the pool or use the fitness center? as a member?
That's something that we really need to address. Like, for example, in the scenario where you had 10 properties and, let's say you have 10 properties, you have 9 memberships that are not being used. I think it's, well, from a revenue standpoint,